Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Vivibright MoonTable J10. This is the world's smallest DLP Pico native resolution full HD projector. So the output resolution is at 1080p, whereas the majority of Pico projectors we've seen are around 480p. But to get this full HD resolution at a small size has been a pretty big challenge in the past, and as a result, Pico units are good enough for home entertainment and for watching some videos, but if you want something that with a lot of clarity or perhaps for business presentations, then that's always been an area where a larger, more traditional projector unit has had an advantage over would be in resolution. Well, now this J10 unit is available, and it is really small and compact, making it easy to just pop into a backpack and still take with you. Now, it is a smart projector in the sense that it has a built-in Android operating system. You can connect it to Wi-Fi, you can connect it to Bluetooth, it has access to the Play Store, and you can access things like YouTube, streaming services like Hulu and Netflix directly on it, even without connecting to, say, a smartphone or to a computer using HDMI. Projected size is up to 120 inches diagonally, and we have what claims to be 880 lumens for the brightness. There's a 6,000 milliamp hour capacity battery that claims to last for around 2.5 hours of playback time, and then it's using an ARM Logic S905X, which is the CPU powering the Android side of things. Now, I will say that the use of Android 6.0 for the operating system is not the best thing in the world. I would have preferred to see a newer version of Android, but considering it's mostly used for the purposes of just streaming back YouTube videos, it still is going to more than suffice. It's going to be good enough for that. Alright, so inside we have just the projector itself. There's a protective sheath on top of the unit. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. Other accessories include a remote control that takes two AAA batteries to operate. We also have access to the power adapter. There's also a free HDMI cable. We have a quick user manual that is presented in this really thin book. Also a soft carrying pouch that you can use to take the projector with when on the road. So going back to the projector itself, as aforementioned, this is a really compact size for a real native full HD unit. Here's a size comparison again with something like an Apple iPhone. This has a 5.5-inch screen. It's honestly not that much bigger. It still slides really easily into a backpack or into a pocket of sorts when you're taking it with you on the road, similar to a tablet, I'd say, in terms of size. Again, the front here is constructed out of aluminum, so it feels quite sturdy, and then we have these chamfered edges, which are quite shiny. There is a door for the lens of the projector that you can open up to prevent dust from entering, fans and ventilation grills. The very side here features a dedicated 3.5mm headphone jack. If you want to use external speakers, you can also use Bluetooth for wireless headphones or speakers, and there is a built-in speaker as well. There's a power on-off switch, and on the very back we have the power input. There's also a full HDMI port for connecting wired devices, micro SD card slot if you have some files loaded onto an SD card, it can load it back directly. The very rear here just says J10, MoonTable, and that's it. There is a kickstand here that you can use to prop it up at an elevated angle so that the image can point upwards. You can also adjust things like keystone and also, of course, the tilt further in the settings of the projector, which we'll look at later. Finally, there is a small little tripod hole that you can use to mount it onto a tripod, onto the ceiling. A final size comparison of some other DLP mini Pico projectors that we've checked out. Here is one recently by Artly. This one is really only around 480p, but you can see that it is going to be a little bit smaller, but about the same in terms of the thickness. We also checked out another unit about a year ago. This one here does have a 720p resolution, but you can tell that it is longer and about the same in terms of overall dimensions. Booted into the Android operating system, first of all, this is the fan sound. So you can hear that it's definitely present, but it's not too bad. I would say it's about average as far as these Pico projectors are concerned. It definitely kind of fades out as you are playing some music or watching a video. Now this thing is extremely bright. Right now I've turned on some of the studio lighting, which is again brighter than typical than what you'll find in a room, but you can see that even with the light casting across this wall, it still is very much visible in terms of the image. Even if there's a curtain open and there's some ambient light creeping in, it still is doing pretty well. And then when the lights are fully turned off, you get a very vibrant and contrasty image. Now right now the virtual screen size here is around 55 inches or so, and then what's interesting about the remote is we can see that you can use it to change the focus of the image depending on how far away from the wall you are projected at. It does mean that the projector itself doesn't come with autofocus, unfortunately, but it also doesn't have a focus dial or wheel as we saw in that hardware tour earlier. So to change the focus, you tap on these keys and then it's done mechanically inside. You'll be able to hear some of the gears turning around. So as a quick demo of that, if I tap on the plus, for example, you can see that it will start to get a little bit out of focus here because previously we got it at a focused point versus minus until it gets more and more in focus and then kind of clicks out of focus. The interface has been optimized for the remote, so you have these left, right, up, and down keys that makes it easy to go back and forth, not as complicated as, say, full Android. It doesn't have as much customization options either. Very similar to, say, an Android-based TV box, it makes it easy to control with. So there's access to quick shortcuts like entertainment, which grants access to the gallery. There is a movie player, which can load back any content that you have on an SD card or a thumb drive and play it back. There's access to the YouTube app built on in Skype and other apps that you can drag and add over here. Now there's also a shortcut to Mobile Office, so WPS is built on in. It's a little peculiar, but it does mean that because the resolution is so high and again text is super crisp, you can even use it for business presentations. Here we also have My Apps, which is a full list of all the applications installed. Really the only other built-in app is going to be Miracast, which allows you to, as aforementioned, wirelessly mirror the screen of your phone or tablet over to the projector. If I also tap on the settings key on the remote, you can also take a look at the projector settings that can be accessed anytime. So if we can tap on here to change things like the display mode. If you are in the presentation mode right now, I can change it to tweak the contrast level. I can also change it to a movie mode where the image gets a little bit more yellowish for a cinematic feel. You can also change it into a user-defined mode to fine adjust all of these properties. Even sound can be fine-tuned. You can make the treble and the bass more prevalent or recessed depending on the type of content you're watching, such as a movie, sports, or user-defined again, so very customizable there. And you can also change the aspect ratio. So right now it's going to be in auto mode, but you can make it 4:3, more of a squished in box, 16:9, and also native. For keystone correction, we can adjust it in an auto mode and also through some user-defined modes. You are able to kind of tilt it upwards, for example, and it will try and compensate for the image by adjusting it a little bit more. So as you can see here, it's being kind of shifted in real time. Starting with just a quick demo of Miracast, we can see that indeed it is fully functional. Everything that we're doing on our phone here is going to be transferred over wirelessly. And the interesting thing here is by default, Miracast, at least the software version, only supports up to 720p. So that is one limitation. If you are transferring the content wirelessly from your phone screen, it's not going to really take a full advantage of the Full HD native resolution. For that, I would recommend downloading another wireless screen sharing app from the Play Store or looking towards using the HDMI port. That will enable you to get Full HD to come over. Now, I would say that the built-in speaker quality is passable, but it's not the best speaker I've ever heard. It is going to be sufficient, I think, for watching some quick clips, but the thing to keep in mind here is it can distort a little bit at higher volumes, and it also doesn't have a ton of bass, which is kind of expected from a smaller speaker. Again, it does in a pinch. If you are light on space, you can just use the one there, but for the best audio quality, I would still recommend using headphones, using Bluetooth, something to add a little bit more punch, especially to the bass. Now turning over to the HDMI mode, we can see that indeed it is going to be using the Full HD resolution for the output at 60 Hz. And now switching to a demonstration of some other sources, if we take a look at a PowerPoint, again, as an example of business use, we can see that, again, text and fine details are very much legible and easy to read. We can zoom all the way in. Everything is still very sharp. So good enough even for doing some business presentations and for schoolwork. In similar fashion, if we take a look at a web page, we can see that, again, the details are still very much legible, easy to read, colors are nice and punchy, so good enough even for smaller text, thanks to the Full HD resolution, which a 480p projector by contrast would be super pixelated and kind of a mess, especially at a large display size like we have it at now. From here, if we want to see pixelation, we have to really zoom all the way in, and even here it's still hard to make out the fine pixels of this unit. Just a sample 4K reel here playing back, and again, just shows up the vibrancy of this projector. That's great for watching videos with, and just for relaxing. You can cast it onto the ceiling of your room and kind of recline, kind of fall asleep. Some final demo images here as we start to end this video. Again, really a very impressive viewing experience, typically found in home entertainment settings, which are much bulkier, such as the Venkyo V600, for example, that we did a review on a few months back. But that thing is easily 8 to 10 times larger in terms of size, and not nearly as portable if you are traveling or on the go. So that is more or less it as far as our hands-on review of this Vivibright J10 projector. Again, that native resolution at Full HD and a DLP super compact body is really the main selling point here at around $550. It's actually pretty fair compared to the competition. There's still lots of other kind of brand name $500 Pico projectors that only get you 720p. So this is a step up in terms of the clarity, the detail, and the sharpness. If you need something to have finer legibility for things like presentations, in addition to just relaxing and for entertainment, it's going to give you more pixels per inch just to enjoy cinematic content and to do things like some light gaming. Pretty much the highest performance you can find at the moment in a Pico projector. This is definitely worth a closer look. Easy to use, easy to take with you. Nice also for using at home, in the office, when on the road. You can check out more details if you're interested in the links down below. But for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Vivibright J10 Full HD projector.